Well, the question that you unpack in the book of why suffering? I mean, why do bad things happen to good people? Why is there so much pain in life? And that's a huge question, and I'm not sure if we can actually give all the answers, because I'm not sure if there's a simple answer to that. But just to begin the process, Joel, in writing the book, the question, why is there suffering? Why do we suffer? Can you begin to even try to answer that?
Well, I think it's, I've wrestled with this. There's something about pain, I think, in every one of our lives that gets our attention. Mm-hmm. We all live our lives in quiet or public desperation. As one philosopher said, but it's a situation, I think, where when it comes down to it, I am not going to change myself unless the pain outweighs the pleasure. Okay. And I think what happens is that I think of what King David said in one of his Psalms. He says, "It was good for me that I was afflicted." Now, Rob, I can almost guarantee, if I was a betting man, and I don't bet, but if I was a betting man, I would say that when he was up to his tail in alligators, he was saying, "Feet don't fail me now. Get me out of this situation." Blaming people, blaming God, and just looking to edit the whole situation to make it look like it was in his favor. Yeah. But later on, as we look back with a certain degree of wisdom and appropriate awe, I think that anyone who is a truth seeker can begin to look back and say, you know what? I really needed that. I was immature. I was engaging in such juvenile thinking, such juvenile behavior, and that I needed that to force me to grow up. And I think there's something about the gift of pain, and I wish there was another way. Jesus, when he was talking with his disciples, he really was not painting a very good picture of what it meant to be a disciple. Yeah. In fact, he basically promised them that they were all going to suffer. Mm-hmm. And as we look at church history, we can see that, according to historians, that Thomas was flayed alive, that Peter was crucified upside down, and every one of them experienced a death, with the possible exception of John. And historians tell us that they tried to kill him in hot boiling oil. Yeah. And Jesus said, if they hated me without a cause, they're going to hate you. Yeah. And so there's not a really pretty picture here. In fact, it's basically the picture is that we're strangers and foreigners. We're pilgrims here, just passing through. Right. And really, our home is not here. We're kind of going through child training, as Amy Carmichael once said. Yeah.
Well, Joel, how do we, with that thinking, how do we make sense out of the fact that I may lose a child, or I all of a sudden I've got a terminal illness that's going to take my life in a short time? How do I make sense of that then?
Well, I think that there's what's important is to walk straight into it. I think that the propensity is, when it comes to grieving, grief has to do with loss, whether it's the loss of a limb, the loss of a dream, the loss of a loved one, the loss of innocence. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross made she died a few years ago, but she talked about the grieving process and developed this model that starts with the pain, when an individual goes through loss of some sort, the denial, the bargaining, the anger, the pit of despair, acceptance. And I think that what happens is that I don't care how many letters a person has behind their name, how old a person is, how much doctrine they have stuffed between their ears. When there's loss, we go through a grieving process of some sort, and we all grieve in our different languages. But the issue is that we do go through this. It's part of our human condition. And I think that God even endorses it, because when Moses died, the nation of Israel grieved for 30 days. And then finally there came a point in Joshua chapter 1 where God told Joshua, says, tell the folks, arise, let us be going over this Jordan River. In other words, I think there's a therapeutic value to grieving and working through and trying to make some sense of it. But then when that therapeutic value diminishes, it's time to move. And I think that I know in counseling, I try to be very sensitive and listen to people and not try to insert all kinds of bright ideas.
Yeah.
Because I think that I know when I've been through my tough times, in earlier years especially, I didn't want anyone preaching to me.
Yeah.
I didn't want someone saying, well, try these 10 steps to becoming a happy sufferer.
Right.
You know, it would serve to drive me into deeper disillusionment.
Yeah.
But to have someone there that was coming alongside me and listening, and you know, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. I think there's a parable there somewhere.
Yeah.
To listen, allow people to go through, to talk crazy, and to try to seek things out, to just pepper their language with all kinds of evocative things, however a person goes through the process. And I want to throw this in as a sidebar, is that I think, as I alluded to earlier, that I think we all grieve in our different languages. I know one woman, actually, this was at 100 Huntley Street. I was doing a show, and there's a woman there who lost her leg to cancer. They had to cut it above the knee.
Okay.
And we were talking in the green room there, and I don't know how many years ago, 10, 20, 12 years ago, 15, she said that her father was a pastor, and he was rip-roaring mad. Here's his athletic daughter who played lacrosse and all kinds of different things. Why would God allow this to happen to his daughter? And people in the church were saying to the father, hey, cool your jets, buddy. You know, come on, you know better than this. You know doctrine. You know that God is sovereign. You know, stop being so angry. It's not right. And then with her approach to the whole thing was she was curious. Am I going to be able, when I get this prosthetic leg on, am I going to be able to cut to the right, to the left? Can I play field hockey? What if I'm sitting with my legs crossed, one leg crossed over the other? Are people going to stare at me? Am I going to buckle up and fall down sometime because it doesn't work properly? How's this all going to fix? And some of the same people came to her and said, you're in denial. You need to be getting angry.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's just part of letting people go through and letting ourselves go through whatever we need to go through. And there comes a point when we hear that still small voice where God says, arise, let's get going across this Jordan River. You know, therapeutic value is diminished. It's now time to move forward. And I can remember during a very dark time in my life, Rob, where I didn't go to church for a year and a half. Okay. And I just simply, here I'd been a pastor and everything else, and I didn't go to church. And one morning, I don't hear voices. I never heard God speak to me. But I'll tell you what, it was just as clear as could be. The verse that says, meet much more as you see the day approaching came to me. And the Lord, is like the Lord was saying, okay, Freeman, it's time now. You've had your little time of sitting watching Robert Schuller in Sunday morning or playing golf or doing whatever you're doing on Sunday morning. It's now time to go to church.
Yeah.
And it's now time to start fellowshipping with other believers. And you know what? I obeyed. And that's what it really comes down to, I think, is we trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus. And we might wrestle, we might curse, we might backslide, we might show God how mad we are. But when it comes down to it, whatever brick wall we're kicking against, whatever we're doing, whoever we're blaming, whatever's going on, ultimately we come to this point of exhaustion.